All right, let's jump right in. We're about to go on a journey, a kind of historical detective mission to crack a code that stumped experts for 1,000 years, the secret behind some of the most stunning objects ever made.
Just look at these. They're absolute masterpieces from the medieval world. And get this, each one is carved from a single, totally flawless piece of crystal. The skill is just mind-blowing. But for a millennium, nobody knew where the raw material, these perfect stones, actually came from.
Okay, so let's start our investigation right there. What exactly are we looking at? To really get a feel for this, you have to hear how people described them at the time. A historian, way back in the 10th century, wrote that they were more brilliant than stars, clearer than the purest water. I mean, wow. This wasn't just a decorative bowl. To them, this stuff was practically supernatural.
Officially, they're known as Fatimid rock crystals. We're talking about super high-end luxury goods. Ewers, bowls, flasks. But the key, the part that's so hard to wrap your head around, is that each one started as a single, perfect block of quartz. We know they were crafted in these amazing workshops in Egypt and the Middle East, but the raw crystal itself, that was the big question.
And that's really the heart of our whole detective story. To make these incredible things, you first need huge, perfect, raw blocks of crystal. So, where on earth were the artisans getting them?
For literally centuries, this question sent historians on a total wild goose chase. Let's dig into the cold case phase of this investigation.
You had people poring over ancient texts, scouring geological maps, following every little hint they could find. But every single time a promising trail popped up, a mention of a crystal mountain, a forgotten mine, it just went cold. A dead end.
Now, the usual suspects were pretty logical. The Alps, maybe Brazil or India, all places famous for crystal mining. Seemed reasonable. But then modern science came along and just threw a wrench in everything. See, with geochemistry, you can take a chemical fingerprint of a crystal and trace it back to its home mine. Well, they tested the Fatimid crystals and nope, not a match. None of them. The evidence just flat out wasn't there.
So, the case went ice cold for a long, long time. But then, as it so often happens, a completely unexpected discovery comes along and just blows the whole investigation wide open. And that breakthrough came from East Africa.
Right when it seemed like this puzzle might never be solved, modern archaeology came to the rescue. Archaeologists were digging way, way far from the workshops of Egypt, and they started to find some very interesting things.
And I'm not talking about just a few scraps. It was a treasure trove of evidence. They found raw, unworked chunks of crystal. They found artisan workshops, but these were for rough shaping the stone, not the final fancy carving. They found Islamic period pottery, linking the site directly to the right culture. And the kicker? It was all at a major medieval port and carbon-dated smack dab in the Fatimid era. This wasn't just a lead, this was huge.
And to give you a sense of the scale here, they uncovered over 500 kilograms of this stuff. That's more than half a ton of raw crystal debris just lying around. This proves this was no small-time operation. We are talking about a massive, industrial-scale enterprise.
Okay, so all signs are pointing south, to Africa. But here's the twist. They tested the chemical fingerprints of these new fragments, and they still didn't match the local geology. This led to the final, stunning reveal, the Madagascar connection.
So the new theory became, East Africa wasn't the source, it was just a processing hub, a critical stop along the way. But a theory is one thing. To prove it, they needed that definitive scientific link, the smoking gun that would finally close this 1,000-year-old case.
So, the scientists went back to the lab. They took that unique chemical fingerprint from the raw crystal they found in those East African workshops.
And they ran it against every known crystal source in the world. And believe it or not, they got a hit. A perfect 100% undeniable match for only one single location on the entire planet.
The crystal mines of Madagascar. Boom. Just like that, everything clicked into place. The mystery was finally solved.
And just let that sink in for a moment. The raw material for these quintessential Middle Eastern treasures wasn't coming from anywhere nearby. It was traveling thousands of miles across the vast Indian Ocean, all the way from Madagascar. It's just incredible.
Now, finding the mine is cool, but the so what here is actually way bigger. This discovery does so much more than just put a pin on a map. It completely redraws our whole understanding of the medieval world.
This discovery just shatters the old, simplistic view of medieval trade. It reveals this hidden network, this incredible complexity, forcing us to rethink what a global economy might have looked like 1,000 years ago.
So let's trace this newly discovered supply chain. Step 1. These huge, raw crystals are mined in Madagascar. Step 2. They're shipped across a treacherous ocean, a remarkable feat of medieval seafaring, to ports in East Africa. There they get sorted and roughly shaped. And finally, step 3. These prepped blocks are sent all the way north to the master workshops in Egypt and Iraq. What a journey.
So, what's the real takeaway? Well, this proves a stunningly sophisticated trade network existed across the Indian Ocean. It puts medieval Africa right at the center of the economic map, not as some passive place, but as a crucial, active hub. It connects these distant worlds, Madagascar, East Africa, the Middle East, and proves that this idea of globalization, yeah, it's a lot older than we tend to think.
And that just leaves you with this final, fascinating thought. If a 1,000-year-old mystery like this can be solved today with new science and archaeology, it just makes you wonder, right? What other secrets, what other forgotten connections and lost stories from the medieval world are still out there, just buried, waiting to be found?